In lesson 2.5, we're going to talk about angle relationships. So here on the board, you see something that we've actually talked about before. It's a linear pair. And a linear pair of angles is when the angles form a straight line, meaning that they add up to 180 degrees, and share a common ray. So in this particular picture, you'll see that that common ray here is the ray QS. So that was what the common ray was. And a linear pair means two angles. So one of those angles would have been the angle PQS, and the other angle would be the angle SQR. So PQS and SQR are a linear pair because number one, they form a straight line, and number two, they share a common ray or side and a common vertex. That vertex, of course, would be the vertex Q. Second, vertical angles are angles that have equal measurements and have a common vertex. Most commonly they occur when two lines intersect. So we'll see one line here in the red intersecting with another line here in the blue. And when that happens, there are certain angles that are called vertical angles. For example, in this particular picture, one set of angles that are vertical are angle 1 and angle 4. These two angles are congruent, or in other words, they have the same measurement. So if I were to tell you that angle 1 was 150 degrees, that means I automatically know that angle 4 is also 150 degrees. Likewise, I know that angle 2 is congruent to angle 3. Or in other words, if I told you that angle 2 was 30 degrees, that means you automatically know that angle 3 is 30 degrees. Now, we're going to talk about using this linear pair conjecture and some deductive reasoning to show that this vertical angle conjecture is actually true. This is not something you have to do, this is called a proof, but this is just explaining why we know about vertical angles. So up above, looking at the linear pair conjecture, we know that angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180 degrees. Using the same exact conjecture, let me actually just erase that and use a different color. So using the two highlights, angle 1 and angle 2, I know that I get a total of 180. Using that same conjecture, I know that if I add angle 2 to angle 4, so angle 4 is right here, and if I add angle 4, to angle 2, which was the one in green, I know that that also equals 180 degrees. Notice how they both share the green angle 2. That means that no matter how big angle 2 is, I don't even know what it is, but if I subtract it out from 180, I'm going to get a number. So let's just put a number in there just to kind of see how that works visually. Let's say that I told you that angle 2 was 10 degrees. That means I know that since 1 and 2 are a linear pair, angle 1 would be 170. It also means since angle 2 and 4 add up to 180 because they're a linear pair, angle 4 would be 170. By the subtraction property, meaning subtracting out the 10-degree angle that they both share, I know that angle 1 and angle 4 have to be congruent using that subtraction property. So down below in the yellow and pink highlights at the end, I know that angle 1 equals angle 4, which means that vertical angles are equal. This is called deductive reasoning. What you see here down below in this brown highlighted circle is something that they call a paragraph proof. It starts with things that you know, like angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180, and angle 2 plus angle 4 equals 180, knowing about linear pair conjectures, or something that you already assume to be true because it's given to you. And then you explain by subtracting that the angle 2 being taken away would mean that angle 1 and angle 4 are equal to each other, because that's the subtraction property, which then you could say, since we know that 1 and 4 are called vertical angles, they have to be equal. That's called a paragraph proof. And we'll start to get more into proofs later in this course, but that's something that you could do to show that another idea that you have is true, using deductive reasoning.